All right. Well, we are here with Tewksbury Selectman Mark Kratman, who is one of the 5 Democratic candidates for the Democratic nomination for state rep from the 19th Middlesex District. The primary, of course, coming up on Tuesday, September 4th. Mark, we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Bill, thank you for having the time to meet with me and having this chat and hopefully getting the word out to the public. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, I suppose we'll start at the beginning, which is you were reelected last year to the Board of Selectmen, to your second term. The seat obviously became vacant when the late Jim Maselli passed away in April. What made you decide that this was the right time for you to run for state rep?
It was a tough decision because, as you know, was working from September all the way up through April, and Jim endorsed me and was helping me with my campaign, and Jim and I were good friends and knew that we'd never run against each other, and so
Sure.
we always had those conversations, and Jim helped me, I helped him, and we always worked together. We had made a nice partnership. I actually spoke to him the night before he passed away. He called me and we were discussing about his campaign kickoff and what I could do to help him and what I could do in the community. And I told him, Jim, I'm 100% behind you. I'll be doing everything. I had just won the election, and then school vacation week was that following week.
Right.
And I promised everybody I was turning my phone off and not talking to anybody, spending time with my wife and my children. And I was down the Cape and the phone rang, and my wife looked at me and says, "Who are you talking to?" And I showed her the phone, and it was Jim Maselli on the phone. So she immediately took the phone and said, "Hi Jim, how's everything?" And so that was okay. It was like she didn't want me on the phone with anybody else. But actually, while we were away on vacation, he called the house too, and he left a message. You know, "Denise, I got to talk to Mark. Can you please get him this message? I know you'll make him call me back." And that message is still on my answering machine. She refuses to erase it because it's Jim. She's leaving Jim's on the answering machine. But the next day I was like shocked because we were doing a cleanup day, and I was with a bunch of friends of mine from the Knights of Columbus, and we were doing the beautification committee. I'm on that, so we were doing our cleanup day. So we were cleaning up around the Knights up out of Maselli Bridge and that area, sweeping the sidewalks, cutting back the brush, doing the thing. And I got the phone call that Jim had was rushed to the hospital and was pronounced dead, and it hit me really, really hard. I was shocked. I went home and told my wife and kids, and they were all upset. The thing that really touched me about Jim is that when not only my children but a bunch of my other friends' children, when they found out about it, they broke into tears. And these were kids that
Right.
they just knew him. He was so nice to them.
Right.
That. And so after sitting down and talking, I got a call from a number of my friends who are activists in the town and doing it, and said, "Hey, listen, we need somebody who's going to go up there and get the things that we need, and nobody works harder than you." So everybody immediately started throwing my name out there. I said, "Let me go home and talk to my wife," because literally I've just been working non-stop on a campaign. And
Right.
so I went home and I talked to my wife, and my wife said, "You know I love Jim, and you know how I feel about it, but Jim would want you to be involved because he would know you live the community as much as he loved the community." And so she was like, "You know what? He would want you to do it. I would want you to do it. Go out there and do it. It's best for our family. It's best for our children. It's best for everybody we know. Make our community a better place, and that's what you enjoy doing. So you're a perfect person for it." So they were 100% behind me, and once I started getting that kind of thing, I was like, well, I guess I'm running for state rep. So there were so many people that called me and asked me to do it. And since Jim's passing, I've received hundreds of phone calls from people that told me, and the first word they would say is, "I usually call Jim Maselli on this, but I know you can help me and get things done." And simple things from noise complaints to sidewalk problems to somebody trying to get a license renewal because of problems getting in and out of the registry,
Right.
or so little things that just to us, but big things to other people. And just I received calls all the time, and when I hear that, I usually would call Jim, and I'm calling you. And I think about it all the time. I'm like, well, I want to be that type of person that can help the people all the time. And so I don't mind taking phone calls. I don't mind being active. I'm out every night anyway, trying to help and do something in the community. So why not? I think I have the experience, I have the knowledge, and I think I would do a great job for both Tewksbury and Wilmington as the next state rep.
When obviously in the time that you've been serving in Tewksbury, people in Tewksbury know you very well, and have certainly endorsed the job that you've done. You won re-election overwhelmingly. The people in Wilmington wouldn't recognize the name quite so well. Have you needed to, during the campaign, work to, especially with a couple of Wilmington opponents, have you had to work to kind of get yourself known in that part of the district?
Well, that's not necessarily true,
Okay.
because I am on the board of directors of the Tewksbury Wilmington Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So I've been involved when we merged together. I was the person that they came to and said, we want to do this, and I immediately met with Mike Champeau and a couple of other members. Mike was on the board of directors, he still is. He was a selectman in town in Wilmington, and so we sat down discussing like, how is this going to work to make Tewksbury and Wilmington a better place for our community.
Right.
I'm also the chair of economic development in Tewksbury, where they don't have an economic development committee in Wilmington, and they were very curious about that, and so they came and they spoke with me, and a number of the people that are on my economic development committee I brought on to be board members with us on the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, I see.
So we could bring that input. I do a walk like twice a year up and down 38 and go to all the businesses and talk to people, all the businesses, the restaurant owners, everybody, and say, how's your business going? How can we help you? What do you need? Do you need help from the city? Do you need, city? Do you need help from the town? Do you need help from the state? Do you need, what do you really need that we can help and build, that we can help you do these things? But we want to build smart growth. We don't want to keep overbuilding these storefronts up and down 38 and all these residential places with nobody going into them. Mm-hmm. So those are the type of things that we've done, and that's what I want to bring to Tewksbury and Wilmington. I'm also a member of the Elks. So the Tewksbury Elks is the Tewksbury Wilmington Elks. So we have a number of people from Wilmington who are a member of that. So when I was over at Wilmington and I went to a number of the events over there, I had hundreds of people coming up to me that I've known for quite a while saying, oh, hi Mark, hi Mark, hi Mark. And a lot of people from Wilmington that never got a chance to vote for me, now they have the opportunity to do so. I know a lot of the business owners in Wilmington that have met through the chamber,
Sure.
doing chamber events and meeting with them, and you have all, people that are real estate and all the other things that come to those type of events.
Right.
They want to talk about economic development, smart growth, and those type of things. So yes, I'm not as well known as the candidates over there,
Right.
but I was known to quite a number of people over there.
Sure. You mentioned about smart economic development, and certainly that's an issue, especially with 38 going up and down between the two towns. It's something that both towns are interested in. It's a big deal. How do you see the state legislature, and would be part of your role as a state representative, being able to assist the local communities in trying to do smart economic growth?
Well, that's my strongest point. I mean, obviously, everyone knows that I work for Mass DOT.
Right.
So I've worked for Mass DOT for the last 20 years. I issue permits. I've issued permits up and down all over the place. I cover 62 cities and towns. So I see what works and I see what doesn't work in these towns. And so I can see where towns have made mistakes and where things have worked well. Mm-hmm. And so I take that knowledge and I see what's going on. There's a number of places in Tewksbury that we had a lot of problems with that right down the street when I was the first selectman. The strip mall down the street where John Ryan's is now, it used to be Piccadilly Pub.
Right.
Well, that place was empty.
Right.
They had maybe one or two stores in there, and Piccadilly Pub closed down. Well, working with them, talking about what their needs were, talking about, how we can assist them, what things they need, and bringing and promoting Tewksbury. I mean, one of the things we've done is we've gone online permitting. We're doing those type of things. We're meeting with people, telling them what they, work with the business leaders of how can we help you and do this, but also how can we do it smartly so it doesn't impact all the traffic on 38.
Right.
We don't want to build to the point that everybody knows that 38 is a nightmare, but there's a number of things that we can do. We can't widen the whole length of 38, but in Tewksbury at least, we've done 2 sections of 38 over. It hasn't been done in 30 years. And when I ran for selectman, I said my #1 goal is to get 38 resurfaced from town line to town line and get sidewalks the whole corridor of 38, so that we can have handicap access, we can get pedestrian access, we can get the kids who want to walk, or kids riding bikes up and down 38, the kids who want to walk to schools, they can get there safely, do those type of things. And I've also worked in Wilmington, because I worked with Jim. Jim would call me a number of times, and we've had discussions about the bridge that was going to be done over in 38, or the Butters Road Bridge. We want to combine that in there. So having that knowledge and knowing, dealing with how everything's done, everything's usually done on like a 5-year budget. And so you have to fight and get your funding source in there. So you got to make sure that when you're going in there, you're getting economic development and improvements for sections of state road and secondary roads as well with the Chapter 90 money. Make sure we get as much Chapter 90 money we can get so they can do their roads over. And also, you don't get money just like on a TIP project. There's a number of other ways you can get it. You get Mass Works grants. There's a number of other grants that you can get for sidewalk improvements and handicap accessibilities and those type of things. And so, like 38 a couple of years ago, every single curb on the thing we put in handicap accessibility,
Right.
all up and down 38.
Right.
And people were asking why we were doing that. And I said, I want it done because if you do that, now you have to make the sidewalks accessible to everybody that goes on. So now you're mandated to do it. So every time a business opens something out there, the planning board, I go to all the planning board meetings, and if somebody wants to build something along that section of roadway, I go up and insist that the contractor puts in concrete sidewalks, handicap accessibility, and if it's going to generate a lot of traffic that's going in there, they should be paying for that. They should be building decel lanes or XL lanes coming out of the places. Right. So this way, the lanes of traffic can continue to move up and down 38. But this has to be, if you're going to build something, you should give something to the community. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to build something and make money off of our roadways and our system, you should be giving something back. So you should be giving infrastructure improvements. A number of places in Wilmington, they didn't do that. That's why they're failing. The place where the Chili's is, it's a horrible intersection, and that intersection was all done over by the contractors that built that. Because down that portion, it was done over many years ago by the MBTA at the time, when they built they expanded the commuter parking and all that over, and so they put 2 lanes of traffic. But as soon as it was done, then these new developers came in, and they put Staples there, and they put Chili's there, and they put all these other stores in there, but they did no infrastructure improvements. So now no one can get in and out of those commercial
Right.
properties. And so that's why Chili's is closed. That's why the Sonic is closed. Staples closed. And
Right.
it's not because of there's Staples all over the place, there's Chili's all over the place. I mean,
Right.
those places are booming in other places. But if you can't get in and out of a parking lot, if
Right.
it takes you, the only way you can get out of that parking lot, you almost have to take a right, turn around in Market Basket parking lot,
Right.
turn around to go in the other direction. And that should not, they should insist that anybody that's going to develop in there do some infrastructure. If they're going to build that new restaurant that they're talking about, they should make sure that there's some infrastructure improvements done in there so that people can go in and go out. The dry cleaner is probably struggling to stay in business over there, because who's going to drop off their dry cleaning if it's going to take you 20 minutes to get out of a parking lot?
In talking about that, talking about development and building, and working with builders, working with developers, there was a story that hit that I feel like I need to give you an opportunity to respond to, that talked about the fact that you had gotten some donations to this campaign from builders, developers, and frankly, the way the headline read made it a leading. It made one lead to believe that you were, if not in the pocket of developers, that you would put the needs of developers ahead of the communities. And I wanted to give you a chance to respond to that.
Luckily for me, at least the resident of Tewksbury who watched the meetings, that they're all public, know that I have stood up numerous times at the planning board meetings. They almost kind of joke that I am like a unofficial member of the planning board, because I go to every planning board meeting, because I want to know what they're voting on and what they're doing. when they wanted to put in a development out there and they wanted to build something higher, I stand there and went, why do we need a 4-floor building when we can do a 3-floor building? Why are we doing that? Are they doing anything? Are they going to be putting a decel lane in? Are they going to be putting these things? These are the same people that gave me donations that I go out there and I fight. And I said, listen, I am not trying to stop or stifle a business from doing types of things, but I want smart growth, and you live in this community. You do not want to be walking up and down the street and saying you're the horrible person that built this place. But with that, you know, a number of places that have been built in here is thriving this community. I go on and I talk to the people that own Angelitas. I talk to the people that own Kyoto's. I talk to all the restaurant owners. They are having the best year ever that they've ever had. You go up and down the restaurants, and because of some of the development that we have built, we built smart development. Some of these apartments that were just recently built, they're 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. So with 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, there's no kids living in there. There's nobody that has 3 or 4 kids that are living in there.
Right.
They're not burdening our schools.
Right.
And I joined as part of my being on the Board of Selectmen. Last year, I volunteered to be a selectman designee to the Lowell Regional Transit Board.
Right.
So with that, I've been working with Jim Scanlon to talk about the bus routes and redesigning the bus routes. Now that we got new developments, and we're talking, you know, I was instrumental in bringing the Lowell General to come to Tewksbury. I go and talk to the seniors. They can't get to their doctor's appointments because they can't get a ride. They can't get the shuttles, and they get put off. And they have to go to Lowell or Drake or some other town to do that. Well, now if we're building a hospital right on 38, immediately when they were talking about doing it, the first thing we did is we went on and applied for a $2.5 million Mass Works grant to do that whole infrastructure, that whole intersection over, and do that part over and widen that intersection, putting in sidewalks, putting handicap accessibilities. There are a number of people that live in Heatherwood and at the at our senior housing, that go up and down 38, and I see them in wheelchairs and they can't get up and down 38. So I find that horrible that they can't get to those places. So I push to get economic development and smart growth for those. The business leaders understand that. I may not agree with them a lot of times. If they try to build something that's too big, I mean, I had a developer that wanted to push a 40B on us. And he would be calling me, Mark, you know, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I'm like, I'm absolutely opposed to this. This is no way I am. They came in front of me, they told me the traffic will be minimal that was going to happen to the thing. I shredded them. They brought in a traffic specialist that told me, oh, this will be minimal. And I gave them 3 scenarios. What happens when the people are coming in at 4 o'clock and they stop in that lane? Now you've turned 38 into a 1-lane roadway because that traffic has to cut across 2 lanes of traffic. I am not in the pocket of any developer. I'm always fighting with the developers, as a matter of fact. When I come walking into the planning board and the people there, a lot of times you hear the because they know, I know from working with DOT, I know how to do smart growth, how to get traffic improvements, and how to make a development work. And so the smart developers understand, I'm not trying to hamper them, I'm not trying to favor them. I want to make our community so that people can get up and down the roadways, so that the residents can get home on a reasonable time, and people aren't jammed on the streets. I do not want over this crazy building that is going on and just keep building and building and building and not having anybody go in there. The first thing I do is when I go to a planning board meeting, somebody talks about building a development on 38 and we're going to have a multi-use and we're going to have all these storefronts out there. And I said, do you have tenants? Let us know who the tenants are who are going into this place. And if you can give me a place, and okay, if they're going to be doing it, are they going to be doing some infrastructure improvements? Are they going to be the ones who are paying for it? If they tell me, well, we're still working on it, I get up and say, I'm not in favor of this development. Now, I'm not saying it as the selectman, I'm saying it as a resident of this town. I'm sick and tired of things being built that don't make sense. If you don't have somebody that's going in there, you shouldn't build it. I was one when they were talking about building. There was a number of residents that were all upset because the VFW was being sold, and a developer wanted to jam a whole bunch of houses inside there. I went down to that meeting, stood in front of them, and said, "This is absolutely ridiculous. We do not need this overbuilding in this community. If you want to build 2 or 3 houses on this lot, it's a fairly good sized lot. Okay, I could deal with that. But putting 12 units on a thing, absolutely opposed to it. I got no problems walking out and talking to the things and shooting down things that make absolutely no sense. But when businesses are striving and they're doing well, don't you think they're also going to be looking at me and saying, wow, he's doing a great job, because he is talking about the growth. We've got 2 sections 38 already done over. We're doing the intersection of Salem and South over next year. I was out there with the governor when we got that done. I met with the governor, and when we resurfaced from the Wilmington Town line to come up to right where the South Station Fire Station is, and everybody's, why'd you stop there? Well, because we're gonna do that whole intersection over. We're gonna fix that signal. It's the 60th worst dangerous intersection in the whole Commonwealth. So people have been getting killed there, maimed there for years. We finally got that on the tip. We're gonna get that started next year. Right now, if you see, we're doing all the smart things that you need to do. We're doing the water lines. We're having a gas company replace their gas lines. We're not gonna wait, build a new roadway and put it in there, and then all of a sudden have a water main break and ruin a perfectly good road.
Right.
Do the smart things. Do your infrastructure improvements now, and then all sidewalks are going in there. We're widening the intersection so we can move traffic that always gets bottlenecked at that corner when it comes through there. Everybody knows where the bottlenecks are. Right where Walgreens is and Salem and South, those signals will be synced together so traffic will flow freely. So everybody coming off of 62 and 125 coming down to 38, we're going to remove that island out there that kind of bottlenecks everybody. We're going to widen that intersection, and we're going to put sidewalks as we're going down 38. And then the following year, we got another project that we're going to do, which is going to be from Colonial to Old Boston Road. We're going to be turning lanes out there with sidewalks on both sides of the roadway, and we're going to build all these places, and we're going to fix down by Town Center. We're going to put all new signals at all these intersections. We may get rid of some of the islands that don't work there, where people are coming off of East and those things. Coordinate to make sure the traffic flows, not for just today, but for the next 20 years. You don't plan for something that's going to be just fix the problems of today. You want to fix the problems that are going to be. You got to plan for additional growth and what's going to happen, and plan for those type of things and fix them for not just now but the future as well.
When it comes to whoever wins this election, whoever it is, ultimately is going to be a rookie on Beacon Hill, and that can always be challenging to try and get things done as the new kid on the block. Especially when it comes to leadership on Beacon Hill, there's been some crises of late. There's been some speakers of the House that have run into some problems. So I guess the question is, if you do get elected, how do you plan? What do you bring that you can be effective and do things for your district without kind of getting sucked into that whole cesspool, if you will, of what goes on Beacon Hill? How can you kind of keep your soul, as it were, but still be effective?
Well, for one thing, I agree that almost every other person would be a rookie going up there.
Okay.
I would not be. Because one of the parts of things at DOT is I'm the legislative liaison for Mass DOT. So that means I talk with the reps, the senators, the mayors. I talk with the speaker knows me by my first name. The governor knows me by my first name. The lieutenant governor knows me by the name. The auditor. If I walk into the State House, I cannot walk down the hallway without 20 or 30 reps coming over. Hey, Mark, how you doing? Hey, Mark, how you doing? Because I go out and cover 62 cities and towns. And like I said, my knowledge of what works and what doesn't work is I help them with, when they come to me and they're talking about, we want to do this, we want to do that. And I say, not for nothing, but this you're trying to build something that's similar to something that may have worked just for a scenario. It's like, it's not a real thing, but it's just like, maybe Beverly tried to do that. And when they tried to do that, this is what the impact was. And so now you're trying to do this in Lexington. And, it didn't work there. Why? You may want to talk to them before you try to do those type of things. And so I talk with reps and senators. I've already been endorsed by, Representative Nangle, Representative Golden from Lowell, because they know I come out when they have problems in their communities. I mean, Jim Maselli would call me every time he had a problem in Wilmington. I'd be out there on the Butters Road Bridge, meeting with residents, talking with people, about how the kids are riding over their bikes over the wooden bridge to try to get to that new field. I love the new field. I wish they did a little bit more infrastructure improvements around that thing. I mean, if I was to build that field, I think it's a great field. I think it's awesome, but there's no sidewalks and there's no way for anybody to get to it that live on the other side of that bridge. There should have been a little bit more thought into, hey, listen, how are people going to access this who aren't driving a car? Fields are usually built for kids to get there, and it's very dangerous for those kids who are coming over that bridge to shoot across 38 to try to get to that location. And Jim came to me and said, how can we fix this? And so one of the things that we're trying to do is that MBTA bridge is supposed to be done over, and we're going to try to tie that Butters Rose Bridge as part of it in there. That was conversations that we'd have. But I go up to State House all the time and meet with all the reps and senators and talk with them about what's going on in their communities. So the fact that I have helped and talked and worked through with my knowledge of infrastructure and doing all these type of things for many years, they're going to be walking in. I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'm trying to do this in my community. I want to build smart growth. And I can't see that. I mean, there may be a clique of people up there, but that's not going to affect me. I mean, I'm going to do what's best for Tewksbury and Wilmington. I go out every single night. There's no way I can go up to State House and be doing things that they don't want, because I'll have my head handed to me. I make myself accessible. I purposely go to like the Bradford Lantern every Saturday and Sunday to get down there. And my wife always laughs. She's like, why do you come down here? It's like, as soon as you try to eat, 20 people come over and talk to you. And I said, that's exactly why I'm here, because I want to hear the 20 people tell me what they want and what they need. I go to everything. Not only am at the planning board meetings, I'm at the conservation committee meetings, I'm at the finance committee meetings. I go to pretty much everything that I can do that know what's going on, and I will do the both. Same thing for Tewksbury and Wilmington. Talk to the residents, talk to the people, talk with the seniors of what they want to do. One of the biggest things that I hear, and it's one of the simplest things that we can do, is a lot of seniors want something as simple as a pickleball court. They do, and you would think it's something like, oh, okay, it's just a pickleball court, but they want it. They really do, and it's like, you know what? They've paying taxes in these years for years, and that's something they really enjoy. So when people talk about the big things and the small pictures of things, well, to them that's a big thing, and if it's a big thing to them, then it's a big thing to me. So I'm working to find a location so that the seniors this winter can have a place where they can play their pickleball. I don't really understand what pickleball is, but I don't really need to know what pickleball is. As long as that's what they want, that's what I'm going to go get them.
Let's talk about a few before we finish up. Let's talk about a few kind of hot button issues that the legislature has been dealing with or might deal with. One of which is the so-called fair tax plan, millionaire's tax. It was going to be on the ballot, then it was taken off as unconstitutional due to a technicality, but in all likelihood it's going to be coming back in the next legislative session. What are your feelings on that, on a basically an extra tax for the richest members of the
Well, that's the whole thing. Is the Republicans are going to switch this into, I'm a Democrat, so I want to raise taxes. And that's the way they're going to spin it. Well, the taxes, the everyday resident in this town, the majority of the people that live in Tewksbury and Wilmington are middle class, and we have a number of people that are below poverty that are in this community. I know that for a fact because I am very instrumental when we do things for the food pantry. I'm at all those events. I try to donate, go to any kind of charitable thing they're doing for the food pantry, because we have many, many families that people wouldn't even believe. If we didn't have that food pantry that we have in our town, we'd have hundreds of people that would be going starving in this town. There's veterans, there's seniors, there's all kinds of reasons. Don't need to get into it. But there's a large population that's living in this community that's living below the poverty level. And so we get them living below the poverty level, and we're doing everything that we possibly can. I just think it's time that people just pay their fair taxes, and that's what it comes down to. The federal government gives all kinds of incentives and things to the rich. There's all kinds of write-offs you can have. There's all kinds of things where you can do this, you can do that. I mean, when I find that Mitt Romney is paying less taxes than I am paying, trying to raise 3 children, I'm sorry. I'm living in a ranch. I'm not a millionaire. I'm driving an old car. I am not somebody that's doing something, but I've been working my whole entire life. I worked 2 full-time jobs for 87 years to try to get to the place where I am now. And I'm not driving a Mercedes. I'm not driving a, Porsche. I'm just getting by. And so the families in these towns are just getting by. And these millionaires are getting all these tax breaks and incentives and write-offs and everything else that they can possibly get.
Right.
I have no problem saying, hey, listen, give a little bit back. That's what it's really all about. We need, the middle class and the lower class should not be the ones who are picking up the bulk of what everything is, and they keep getting their tax write-offs. So yes, I am a favor of a millionaire's tax for them to stop paying their fair share. For way too many years, they've been getting away with all these breaks.
Another issue that was something that you felt that there was some misinformation on your stance about, the so-called Safe Communities Act that would have been, it would make Massachusetts into a sanctuary state, basically. It was said that you were in favor of sanctuary cities and sanctuary state, but you said that was not where you stood.
They will twist and turn and do whatever they want to do. There's been stories written in the paper from somebody that didn't even exist. There have been stories that have been written in the things about voting history and all different other things. My stance has been straight out. They asked me questions about, do I believe in sanctuary cities and sanctuary cities? I immediately said, absolutely not. I said, I think there's a big problem with immigration. I said, it should not take somebody 15 years that's a hard-working, somebody that wants to come to this country much in the same way everybody else did. There's not that many Native American Indians that are living in this community.
Right.
So everybody's parents or grandparents or great-great-grandparents went back generations, came to this country looking for a better life. If people want to come here looking for a better life, and there's a lot of places in this world that are in a lot of turmoil,
sure,
who would not look at America as the great place that you want to come and raise your family?
Sure.
I know a ton of people that have moved to this community that have come from different countries, and they are the hardest working people I've ever met, the most giving people that they could be, and the nicest people you would ever meet. They raise their families here, their children are going to school with my children, they come over and they just want to live the American dream. I don't think it should take you 15 years to be able to do that. There should be background checks. I mean, granted, if someone's a violent criminal or something like that, yeah, absolutely, they should be put through the ringer of everything that goes through. We don't want the thing that always happens is, we got the stories about these mass murderers that come in and they're illegals and they send them out and they get kicked out of the country, and what happens? 6 months later, they're back here.
Sure.
I'm opposed to that. You hear about the fraud. They pull over somebody that has like 3 different identifications.
Sure.
I am so sick as a person who's worked as hard as I have my entire life. Believe me, I'm not want to give out anything that isn't deserved. I believe I'm always willing to give somebody a helping hand, but you got to deserve that helping hand. Eventually, you got to pick up and work for yourself. You don't. That helping hand isn't there forever. We're there to help you. We're trying to. When anybody needs something, I'm the first one to say, I'm here for you. What can I do for you? But I am not for what they're talking about. It's like I've never been in favor of it. They asked me the question, and then the Republican Party put this false ad out saying that I was in it. Then there was this fictitious person who wrote in the paper. We found out that the person doesn't even vote in Tewksbury, live in Tewksbury, told me that I'm in favor of taking away people's guns. I've already told everybody. I've been quoted. I did it at the debate. I've been quoted in newspapers that there's no way that I am doing that. I'm not in favor of bump stocks and all the other things that are going on. I think there should be some controls on it. But the last thing I'm doing is taking away somebody's right to carry an arm. Goes back to our forefathers. That anybody who wants to carry a weapon that is legally carrying it and is doing it either for recreational or for security, they should be able to have that. So there's been a lot of misinformation put out, but That's the spin doctors out there.
Last question. The opioid crisis is something that has hit the Merrimack Valley pretty hard. Certainly Wilmington and Tewksbury. There's been a little bit of controversy over the Into Action Recovery House that's coming in Tewksbury, as well as I guess plans were scrapped for a detox center in Wilmington.
I don't think it's been scrapped. I think.
Oh, not scrapped completely. Okay.
No, it's. I think what they did is they're putting something into rezoning.
Oh, I see.
What's going on, but that place is not being stopped because whatever they put in now, they're trying to put in new rules under the bylaws that now change it to where it can go. But that other place is already zoned to do it, and it's too late to stop that place, and that's what's going on. So
I guess that leads into my question. As far as how do you feel that the steps that have been taken in that battle, how do you feel the steps are working? How do you feel it's going? And what would you like to see the state, the legislature doing to help the communities in that area?
I don't think it's the state at this point that's helping. I think what it is, it's up to the cities and towns to do their own thing to make sure that they push these type of things in. A couple of years ago, we had a problem, which is still ongoing, with affordable housing. And people were paying in lieu of fees and those type of things.
Right.
So we put a zoning bylaw committee together to start looking at all our zoning, about everything and how it happens and how it's zoned. And some of these zoning bylaws have been gone back decades and they're outdated and they need to change. So in October, when we go to open meeting, we're going to have everybody there, and the residents are going to have their say, at least in Tewksbury, about changing zoning bylaws. That's a wonderful thing about having open town meeting where people can come and the residents get to say how they want things done. We need detox centers. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We just had another young gentleman died the other day. And I know that the women from there's a number of people, there's a couple of women that are the head of that interaction. I've met with them, I've spoken with them. They've lost people, they've lost their own children to that thing. The last that we had heard is that they didn't plan on building in Tewksbury. Because they couldn't afford, honestly, to build in Tewksbury. And then something just happened to fall into their hands.
Right.
I understand the residents being very upset about it because they're worried about their property values and those type of things that are going on.
Right.
We should zone so that things are in certain areas that this is where it is. I mean, most of those places when they're built, they have to be built on places where there's a bus line, where there's strict things. So honestly, I thought if they ever were going to build something like that, they would have to build it on like a place on 38 or something like that.
Sure.
The fact that they found something like that, I don't understand how they got a house that cheap. I think it happened to have that somebody needed to move out and it fell into their hands.
Right.
And I can understand why all the residents there were upset about it. Unfortunately, it's the up at the legislature, they have certain laws of what the Safe Communities Act and those type of things, and that's where it is. But if the cities and towns create zoning bylaws to say you can only build these things in certain things, then the legislature will have to listen to those type of things.
Sure.
So that's what we need to do as cities and towns to be able to do that. And as a representative, I'd be pushing for that to say work with the people in the cities and towns of how they do it and what they want in their community. So the residents of Wilmington want a certain area zoned, you can only building in that. I absolutely support the selectmen, the town officials, and anybody that's in there, and then listen to all the residents about what their needs and concerns are. But we need these facilities. We get children and family members dying. I mean, the last thing I want to do is not have treatment places and have people hanging in our parks. When I do cleanup day, you will not believe the numbers of needles that we find in this town.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And by the playgrounds, and it's sickening. So we got to get these people the help that they need, and we also have to hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable for this.
Sure.
This is the thing that drives me mostly. Both our towns are paying through the teeth, paying for these treatments. It's like every time the fire department has to go there, every time the police department has to go there, they're all going there. And these pharmaceutical companies are making billions of dollars off of this epidemic. When I talked with a number of the nurses at Tewksbury State Hospital about it, they told me it's like when the opiates first came out, they were told they weren't addictive because they said people would get sick if they took it. This is the false information that was put out. So this goes back to a number of things. And so Tewksbury joined the lawsuit throughout the Commonwealth. Wilmington hasn't yet, but I talked to a number of the selectmen over there and said, you should be over there and you should be joining us in this. There was just a lawsuit against the company, and there was quite a large settlement that they admitted that they were misinterpreting their things, and so the Commonwealth is going to get a lot of money back in those fees. You know, talking millions and millions of dollars that's going to come back, and those monies should go back into our coffers, so that when we had to pay for all these extra fire department, police department, those type of things, those are the things that's happening. I mean, you remember a number of years ago we had that Hotel Caswell down there, and it was a drug haven. It really was. I mean, I don't blame the property owners. It's like you have to do, but people were going in there, and much like the Motel 6 that's down the street, our police department might as well set up like a permanent base there, because they go in there and they make 6 arrests a day. And we don't want that in our community. We have to find help for these people, and we have to prosecute the people that are selling these drugs, and we have to go after the pharmaceutical companies that are doing these type of things. But the number one things, I want to make sure that we have places that people can get better. And God forbid, I don't think anybody in these communities that I've gone to many meetings where they said, how many people in this room have had somebody that's been affected by opiates? And you will see 70 or 80% of the people raise their hand. Everybody knows it. Nobody wants it next to their house. I understand that. But we have to find places where we can build this and work with the communities so that we build these places smart, make sure that they're off of some place. I don't want them next to schools. I don't want them in the middle of a residential neighborhood. But we have plenty of places where we can build them. We have a lot of empty storefronts that are on 38 that's not near other places. Build the medical things where the buses are there, that people can get on and off the bus, move them in and out, let them get the treatment that they need, and hopefully become productive members of our community again, and get them the help. And I want to hear the good news stories rather than these horrible death stories of these young kids dying.
Excellent. Hey, this has been a great conversation. If people want to know more about you, know more about your campaign, where can they find that information?
Very simple. They can go to Kratman.net. I have a website up there, or you can go on my Facebook page. It's Mark Kratman for State Rep. That's out there. Or they can reach me by telephone number. I'm always accessible. My telephone number is 978-726-2912. I get hundreds of phone calls a week, so a lot of people can reach out to me. I've had a number of residents from both communities saying, I hear great things about you. I want to learn a little bit more and have those conversations, so I welcome anybody. Please, if you got questions in these last couple of days, feel free to reach out to me. And I just want to say one last thing. It is, it's Labor Day weekend. I wish all the candidates a wonderful weekend. They've all put in a very hard effort. They've given up much time with their family, friends to be doing this. It is not an easy race to run. I've been actually running for a year straight, I just realized. Because I started running for selectman in September, and here we are, it's almost in September right now. And so I've been running for a year and spending this time. I apologize to my wife and my children that I've been out there doing it. They understand why I'm doing it. It's all about making our communities a better place, but the other candidates have done the same thing.
Sure.
They've taken a lot of flack. This negative campaigning is disgusting and sickening, because you don't get rich at doing this job. You do it because it's a labor of love, or you're doing it for the wrong reason. The only reason I'm running is because I want to make our communities a better place, and I want to do it for my family and yours. So
excellent.
I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.
Excellent. We've been talking to Mark Kratman, candidate for the Democratic nomination, 19th Middlesex District. Mark, thank you for the time.
Bill, wonderful. Thank you.
Right.
I enjoyed it, and hopefully I'll see everybody on Election Day.
Very good.